Southeast Asia has one of the world's worst climates. Thailand is no different. Recently, Prime Minister directed government departments to address this issue seriously. And our guest today is a major figure supervising the situation, Kun Waravuth Silapa Acha, Minister of Natural Resources Environment.
สวัสดีครับ Hello everyone.
Thanks so much for joining us, Voice of the Nation, for today. We have serious problem recently, like 2 weeks ago. When we look at in the outside, we can see a lot of dark cloud. Actually, it's not the dark cloud; it's the pollution coming back again. So I like to know what's going on now. The situation facing that Thailand is facing with the air pollution.
Well, first of all, we have to understand that the source or sources of the pollution, be it the PM2.5, the SOx, the NOx, there are two major types of sources. The first one is the one that we can actually do something about, the one that we can control. The second one is something that is actually out of our control. Now let's start with something that we can do first. For example, the hotspots within the country, the hotspots that can range from the agricultural burning area, the forest fire in the north or the northwest part of Thailand. Now, those parts that we can control. The second, another part of the controllable sources is within the urban area. For example, the industrial sites, the pollution from the internal combustion engines that comes from the vehicles on the road, from the lorries, from the pickups, from the cars. These are the sources that we could control. How do we control it? For example, at the moment, the government has come up with schemes where we would like to reduce the PM2.5 within the urban area. The Pollution Control Department, together with the police force, we have seen various checkpoints where we stop the cars and we check for the pollution level of each car, and if it's actually beyond the limits, we actually give out the notice or the ticket for them to go and fix it. The part in the agricultural area or the forest fire area, we have seen a significant improvement in the reduction of hotspots in those areas. For example, compare year on year, this year compared to last year, the number of hotspots compared to this year's 2022 compared to 2021, it has dropped by about 60 to 70%. Moreover, if you compare it to 2 years ago, from 2020 to 2022 this year, the hotspot has gone down by almost 80%. Now, part of that is because we are actually quite lucky. We've had quite a lot of amount of rain in the north part of Thailand, as well as the northeast and the northwest part of Thailand. Same situation as last year. So the number of hotspots has significantly gone down. And also within the urban area, the police as well as the pollution control department, we have gone to a significant length to really remind people to really check up and service their vehicles to be in a good shape. Now, these are sources that we can control. Now, the second part that I mentioned at the beginning, that the sources that we cannot control is one, when it's outside of the boundary of our country. For example, our neighboring countries to the east and to the west. If we look at the number of hotspots to our neighboring countries to the east, for example, even though Thailand has reduced our number of hotspots significantly, but we cannot say so to our neighboring countries. The number of hotspots in our neighboring countries has gone off the roof in the past month. The only thing, and I do insist on the word, the only thing that we can do when that kind of thing happens within, over the border is where the pollution control department, as well as our ministry, we write a complaint letter to the ASEAN Secretariat. And what the ASEAN Secretariat will do is they will pass on the message to the corresponding government in various countries to say that please do something about the hotspots in your country. Now, why is that the only thing that we could do? It's all about a diplomatic protocol. Well, basically, Thailand cannot interfere in our neighboring countries' businesses, just like our neighboring countries cannot ask the Thai government to do something. So we have the ASEAN Secretariat to act as a medium, to a go-to person to interact with various countries. That is the part that we cannot control. Another thing that we cannot control is actually the weather itself. If we notice today, well, I'm not sure if this is going live this evening, correct? Our program.
This evening, right?
If you look at the weather situation today, this morning until now, and yesterday, we can see that the amount of pollution has gone down significantly because the weather has improved. We've had quite a lot of rain this morning in Bangkok. Yesterday, we had a pretty bad thunderstorm in the afternoon. So with all that, it actually flushed away all the PM2.5 and all the pollutions away. If you look at the same situation last week, we have a situation where the weather, we don't have the movement of the wind. So when the wind doesn't blow, it's like when you have a cap over the entire city of Bangkok, where the PM2.5 continues to be generated and the wind doesn't blow it and disperse it everywhere else. So when that happens, we have the accumulation of the PM2.5 as well as the pollution levels. And okay, when I explain this, we might get the feedback from people who said, so the government, all government can do is complain about the weather and waiting for, God knows the invisible hand to come in and say, blow all the pollutions away. And I'd like to say that it is part of the explanation, because PM2.5 continually to be produced on a daily basis. Humans, activities, industry, businesses, transportations, it all produced carbon dioxide, PM2.5. If you look back 2 years ago when COVID-19 just started, when we have all the quarantine, almost 100% quarantined, if you look at the weather in Bangkok back then, it's crystal clear. There was no cloud around.
Right.
It was. And so when people ask, so how are we going to get rid of the PM2.5? Well, we have COVID-19 to answer for if we stop using the cars. Now, if we switch to the EV, electric vehicles, or the public transport, such as the BTS or the underground, now that would also significantly reduce the amount of PM2.5. So basically, what I've mentioned, what I've said until now is we have two sources: the controllable one and the uncontrollable ones. The situation in Thailand alone is actually improving. The hotspot has gone down significantly, but when it comes to, we call it the transboundary haze pollution, when it comes across the border, now that is a little bit more complicated and a little bit more sensitive to deal with.
Right. Let me ask you this with the diplomatic protocol. Quite interesting, because we know that the pollution is coming from which direction, and some part are from our neighboring countries. In addition to diplomatic protocol, is this other way possible for us that we can do, like financial aid or contributions to help those countries improve their situation as well? Because in this Southeast Asia, we cannot deny that Thailand is quite advanced in these technologies and also the development. So what do you think about this, that we should have other ways to help them cooperate more with Thailand and help their country to control the pollution?
Well, as a matter of fact, there is a system. We have an agreement. It's called Transboundary Haze Pollution Agreement that all the ASEAN member countries have signed. And every time when there is a ASEAN environmental ministers meeting, we have this meeting every other year. We're going to have one this year. We didn't have one last year. This issue of the transboundary haze or the over the border air pollution, we always discuss about it. And of course, as a minister of each country, especially our neighboring countries, they'll say, "Oh, we are," they are doing the best that they could, including our neighboring countries down south. Not just to the east and to the west, but down south as well. On the table, it is always, to the best of their ability, to the best of their, efforts that they are trying to mitigate all the burnings and the hotspots in their countries. But when they go back, each country, Thailand included, sometimes we have difficulties and complexities of the, of a culture, of the way people live and the way of life of the people in each country. And that makes it much more complicated to deal with. Now, back to the question when you ask, can Thailand do such a financial support to our neighboring countries, I think we haven't reached that point yet, because Thailand alone, we still need the funding alone within our country, and I don't think we are in a position to be able to give grant or financial support to our neighboring countries to mitigate their hotspots system.
Okay, if you can, because now the private sector is quite aware of the environment concern, and also some part of them just like doing this for their reporting of their performance to the stock market. So, in terms of private sector, do you think it can do any contribution to help the government in this matter?
Now that is a very, very good point, I must point out. Private sector, especially multinational companies that have investments, be it industrial investments or agriculture related investments in our neighboring countries, both to the east and to the west. I think such major companies could really influence, the locals in each country to have other system apart from open burning in the open. I think that is a very suggestible thing to do, and I think I'm sure that there has been some discussions with the multinational companies in order for them to influence the local farmers, not in Thailand, but in our neighboring countries, to change the way they burn, change or reduce the number of hotspots in our neighboring countries.
Right. In controlling this pollution, this is a government trying to do this, and also private sector may have some help. And what your recommendation, or what you see that we can help solve this problem in other sectors, and also what the most efficient way for like consumers to practice?
Seems like the group of people that has the loudest voice are us living in Bangkok here, in the urban. When you are in the rural, when you burn the rice paddy or the sugar cane, the sugar cane it has gone down significantly. It's almost none now, because of the sugar board have come up with a scheme of assisting or subsidizing the non-burning sugarcane when they're selling it to the sugar refineries. But us in the urban areas, not just in Bangkok, but up north in Chiang Mai or even down south, part of the pollution also comes from the industries within the urban area, as well as the transportation. One thing that we could do is continuously monitor or service our vehicles, our engines, changing the oil filter, and maintain your car or your vehicles to be in the good shape. The majority of the PM2.5 comes from the diesel engine, not the benzene or the gasohol engines, but it's from the diesel engine. And the diesel engine comes from where? From the lorries, from the pickups, and most of these vehicles are very old. Some of them are, well, I don't want to use the word prehistoric, but they are really old. Yeah, and what I've learned is that some of the lorry drivers, we have the catalytic converter in each large vehicles. What happened is that the materials inside the catalytic converters is actually a valuable metals. So what happened is that they cut open the catalytic converter, and they remove all these elements inside, and they sell it, for their own profit. So what happened is that sometimes the large lorries, they have the gas coming through, and it's not being treated in the catalytic converter because there is nothing there. It just come out bare. So what the business owners should do is constantly check the health of the engines of your vehicles, and if that can be done, at the moment we're talking about the Euro 5, Euro 6 standard. For me personally, you don't need to go up to Euro 5 or Euro 6 yet. If all the vehicles in Thailand can meet Euro 4 standard, now I think that would reduce the PM2.5 in the urban area significantly.
That idea should be like implemented through government policy, or should we issue new rules and regulations to control that pollution from this old engines. What do you think about this?
We have already put in place these rules and regulations. Now, unfortunately, despite the fact that we have a department called Pollution Control Department, we do not, unfortunately, have the authority to arrest vehicles that have exceed the pollution limit. That is why you see every time when there is a checkpoint, you will see a Pollution Control Department officer working alongside a policeman. Because we, as in the ministry, we do not have the authority to arrest or issue a warrant or issue a ticket. So it has to be done by the policeman who holds the law in their own hand. What we could do is to, tell them to say, hey, your car or your vehicles have exceeded the limit. So please, service it within 30 days or so. But there have been schemes that we are trying to enforce it to all the vehicles. There has even been an attempt, a scheme last year where some major car companies such as Toyota or Ford do a special discount in order to make sure that everyone, to encourage everyone to service their vehicles before the season, the dusty season. I called it the dusty season, like during January, February, and March. So if you decide to service your car, let's say in November or in December, car companies such as Toyota and Ford would offer a special discount to encourage people to come bring their car or vehicles in for change the oil, change the air filters and engine filters, etc., etc.
Right. I got some funny question because the police can now take the camera to control the speed. And this is possible in any way the technology can control the air pollution and the emission from the vehicles too. Have you ever thought
using
about
the camera?
Right.
I haven't heard the technology that can use a camera to detect the pollution yet. Or stress on the word yet. Because I think there could be an AI or some sort of technology I will certainly discuss with the director of the Pollution Control Department and see. I mean, at the moment there's a facial recognition, there's all sort of AI, but until today I have not heard about an AI that would use to detect a pollution coming out of the exhaust pipe of vehicle engines yet. So I'll have to check on that one. That's a very good question.
If you check it out and we find out the result, we will happy to be the first news outlet to cover that. I think it should be something.
You will be the first one that I inform. You will be the first one.
Okay, let me ask you this. You mentioned about the areas in Thailand that like in rural areas and also in the cities, the urban, any spot that should be like the highest risk of this pollution now in Thailand that we should be concerned about. After like Bangkok surely is one of them. How about other areas?
Well, we've had a lot of complaints up north, like for example in Chiang Mai, where I really do feel sorry for the people in Chiang Mai, and as a minister of natural resource and environment, I do apologize for them that from time to time they will have to experience a period where PM2.5 is actually off the roof. We do have a model where the computer can simulate that, for example, if Chiang Mai is experiencing a heavy pollution time, we could detect where the pollution was originated. Was it originated domestically or was it transboundary? For example, about a month ago, I was visiting Ubon Ratchathani in the northeast of Thailand. Back then, they had a pretty bad case of air pollution. And once we run it through the model, it was discovered that the pollution was actually transboundary. The hotspots in Ubon Ratchathani was, in a single digit, like 7 or 8 spots or double digits at most. But across the border, it was like everywhere. It was lighting up like a Christmas tree over the border. And so we did according to our protocol. We filed a complaint with the ASEAN Secretariat. We also informed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for them to coordinate with the corresponding bodies and make sure that our neighboring countries do something to try to mitigate the problem.
Right. One of the tools that people rely on a lot, also myself, I have the application on my cell phone to check the weather Like before going out to do exercise outdoor, so we check the weather from the system. You got the Center for Air Pollution Mitigation, or CAPM. Can you evaluate this operation and the results of this center, or anything that you think we should do further and improve the system, the center? Yeah, any ideas?
The purpose of this center, well, first of all, of course, the government is doing everything in our power to try to mitigate the problem. Like I mentioned earlier, we talk with the people in the villages outside of Bangkok, up in the north, to try to reduce the number of hotspots. We have a checkpoint to reduce the number of overpolluted vehicles. But then again, from time to time, we have to stay alert in such a way that when the weather is not, on our side, when the wind is not blowing, when there's a cap, over the certain area, we have to be able to warn people. Now, at the moment, the weather forecast system in Thailand, with the weather forecast department, forgive me, I don't have their full name in English, but we have a much better or much improved weather forecast system. And it is actually pretty accurate until the next 7 days. So what this CAPM CAPM center is doing is that it provides information. It will give people a forecast of what the weather would look like from now until the next 7 days. So people could prepare accordingly. Let's say, okay, tomorrow it'll still be green. The day after tomorrow, it will be raised to orange. It will stay orange for a few days, and then it'll come back to green or blue again. Or in the worst case scenario, if it goes from green to red in the next 4 or 5 days, at least we will be able to give people advance warning. We will be able to forecast the weather system for them. Not just, we wake up in the morning, open up the curtain and see the whole city covered with black smog or PM2.5 or being hazed everywhere. So the purpose of this center is to notify people of what the weather would be like, predict the level of air pollution, as well as informing people the sources of the air pollution, where it comes from. And up until today, this center has provided very valuable information to the public.
You like to add more any development or functioning in the applications for further development of this application, so you can tell all the people?
Well, at the moment, the Pollution Control Department, we also have an app on mobile phones, be it on Android or iOS. It's called Air for Thai. It's like you type in air and then number 4 and then Thai. It would give a more accurate result of the PM2.5 level, the SOx, the sulfur dioxide, the NOx level, the nitrous oxide, as well as the PM10 level, all over the country. Now, of course, apart from the Air for Thai, there are other applications that people regularly use. Pardon me for not mentioning their names. I don't want to get into the legal problems. But some of the applications do have kind of a hidden agenda. For example, quite a few of my friends have used these other applications, and some applications would add this number, add that number, and eventually come up with a result that is beyond red. And at the bottom they would have an app, a function like, would you like to buy a mask or an air purifier, something like that. So
would result in another fake news?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but my friends have been complaining about. A friend of mine have bought about 6 or 7 air purifiers because they've seen that the number was like off the roof. So the Air for Thai, we are providing the numbers as it is. We don't add this, we don't add accurately and straightforward number, because we are a government agency, and our job is to provide the information to the people, so the public can correspond or prepare themselves accordingly.
Okay, so one question we prepare for you, we need an example of countries that quite able to control air pollution, like the huge country like China. Do you have any details or information that how that country control the air pollution?
Well, China is quite an extraordinary example because we all know how China, enforce their rules and regulation. Unfortunately, in Thailand, we cannot be so absolute like in China. Now, some of the problems we wish we have that kind of influence on the people, but China has been a very good example of how when everyone, do something together for the environment, you can see a significant improvement. In Thailand, unfortunately, we cannot enforce the law or come up with rules or regulation as strict or the way to execute those rules and regulations as strictly as China could, as effective as China could. I mean, they've done a wonderful job, and I do commend them for that. Thailand could learn a lot from China, but then again, sometimes the public in Thailand can be a little bit more sensitive to enforcement of the rules and regulations. I'm not talking about just in the urban area, but also areas outside Bangkok, up north and up in the northeast.
I see. So this is my personal question, because now we get used to wearing masks, for the COVID-19. In some country like Japan, they're very a lot of hygiene conscious. Do you think that when we have the pollution, like the report from the Air for Thai, and that we gonna make Thai people to wear masks instead of protecting us from the flu or COVID? Do you think that
okay, let me ask you this question then. When there is a weather forecast saying that tomorrow it will rain, do you prepare umbrellas?
Why?
Do you prepare raincoat? Of course we do, because it will rain tomorrow. You don't want to get wet.
The air is not like in our life before.
Well, that is what climate change is all about. It's about change. It's about adjusting humans' behavior. Everything that humans have done up until today has caused significant damage to global environment, to the global weather. That is why we are having or experiencing global climate change at the moment. And as things developed, we have a rain season, we have the winter, the cold season. We might be facing a dusty season.
We should have. Right. So we are aware of more pollution. Like during the season that some country in the south that they have to do the palm oil, that they cannot stop burning that will fly to us anyway. So people in the south should be aware of this. Right.
Of course, and that is the whole purpose of the CAP-M Center, where we give people advance warning of what will actually happen. Now, unfortunately, there will be people saying that, all you can do is giving people warning. I must say that is the addition of what we have done. The government is working very hard to try to mitigate all the problems, be it in the agricultural sector, industrial sector, transportation sector, or even energy sector. But sometimes when things are actually out of our hands, when the second source that I mentioned at the beginning, what we can do is we give people advance warning, like tomorrow it will rain. Are you going to prepare an umbrella and wear a raincoat? Tomorrow is going to be a dusty day. What are you going to do? Are you going to walk out without a mask, or are you going to wear the mask and protect yourself from the element that other human beings is causing?
I see. So my last question for today, I really enjoyed this conversation with you. We should have more time. How much do you enjoy doing this job as Minister of this natural resources environment so far?
First of all, I do not enjoy seeing people suffering from environmental problems. I do not enjoy seeing Thai people having to breathe PM2.5. I don't like seeing people suffering from all natural disasters, be it the drought or the floods or whatever. But as a Minister of Natural Resource and Environment for the past 3 years, I have been enjoying my work tremendously, tackling problems. I enjoy solving problems because problems are there to be solved. It could be very difficult, but what's life without some obstacles? And I have to thank all the people at the ministry, from the permanent secretary all the way down to even the drivers at the ministry to, those park rangers who had to dive down 30 or 40 meters underneath the water to protect our coral, or in the park rangers that they have to patrol the area preventing the forest fire, for making my life so much fun to work in this ministry. For the past 2.5 years, I don't feel like I've been working at all, because there's a saying that find the work that you love and you won't have to work for the rest of your life. And I think I found something that I love, and I'm enjoying every single minute of it.
Right. Thanks. This is a very good closing for our program today, Voice of the Nation. Thanks so much for joining us today. I hope we have more conversation in the future. Maybe we have one day just doing like what you do in a day as a minister of this ministry.
Well, the pleasure is always mine. Please, I will be very happy to accommodate your request.
ขอบคุณมากครับ
ขอบคุณครับ
That's คุณวราวุฒิศิลปะอาชา Minister of Natural Resources Environment. Let's enjoy our Voice of Nation every day, Monday to Friday. I'm วิทยาแสงอรุณ สวัสดีครับ